But let's move on to talk about using Clip Studio brushes to create our textures and all the features it can offer to achieve that. So first off, you can use any brush that has a texture applied to it. Clip Studio has a lot of brush presets with texture already applied to it. So you could choose to use one of their presets and just go ahead and even just start creating something that works. However, you'll notice that some of the brushes have a ribbon effect that can link to each other, such as this. I could create my own by just making a square canvas. I recommend, if you're going to create your own pattern brush, to enable the grid and maybe the ruler. Alright, so as you can see, you can control the size of the grid right here. You can use the shift key to align it to wherever you think the center point is, and you can start as a rough concept. I'm just gonna do something very simple. So here's a really rough concept, but the general idea is that if you want the brush to repeat, you have to make sure that the top and the bottom can link up to each other from edge to edge. The next thing you want to make sure of is that the layer is not in color. The layer property, you want to change it to grayscale. And this is important because this is what's going to enable your black and white brush to accept color changes. Now you go to edit, register material, image, use for brush tip shape. Go to all materials, image material, and brush, and create your brush. So it ends up right here in the materials. So in order, a quick shortcut that I can take without having to mess with entirely with the layer tool properties to make it ribbon and any effect, you can choose a preset that another brush already has, such as this zipper brush that Clip Studio has. I can duplicate the subtool. So here's a subtool detail in the properties menu window. All I have to do is go change the brush tip, delete. First I'll add my new created brush. I can delete the old zipper. And I have my new one. Looks like it's dual brush. Get rid of that. And now it has the same effect that the zipper had. And by that I mean you need to have the repeat method under the stroke tab as repeat. With the ribbon checkmark on. So there's how you create a tiling ribbony feel to your brush. Okay, so that was a really quick example of how to make it tile, but I created another one right here that I call text. And this one is meant to represent fabric links. If you take like a microscope and just look at closely at how the fabric links up in your clothing, it roughly looks like this shape. Now, as you can see, I didn't really do a good job of making it link together, but I did that on purpose to show you that it doesn't take some hours and hours of just perfecting something to get the outcome that you want. It can be very quick and easy, and even cheaply. I could spend hours just perfecting it, and yeah, it'll look even better, but I just really wanted to show how quick and easy and roughly you can put together something that works. So I've had that pre-made already. Have it right here. And this is what it looks like, right? Not very impressive. But first off, the deal is that I'm going to make it very tiny, so the gaps don't even matter. As you can see, I can start drawing right here in the jeans, and it'll be how I want to use it. Now this one, unlike the square tiling one that I just created, this one's special because when I created this one, such as this, I used the fill tool to fill in these large areas with white while the outline is black. And that's important because now I can use both these colors to switch up the white in the interior and the black in the outline. So it's a dual color brush. And that works for creating texture because if you pay attention to how the fabric lights up, the location where the light matters. So let's say I change this to a dark blue, and this is, a lighter blue. Oops. See, if I have this one clicked on, then the whole thing is that color. So I should be in the first color bracket right here. Alright, so as you can see, the body is light up with light while the outline is darker. And this matters because if I was drawing this where the light's coming from, I would want the body mass to be lit up while the parts that concave and are the seams and outline will be darker. In contrast, I can switch this light one to be the dark one, this to be the light one. As you can see, the colors are reversed. So now the body is darker while the outline is light. So now when I go to the shadow area, I want most of the body of the texture to be dark and only the seams to be light. And this is how you go for a more realistic texture. Let's show it in a way that matters. Here's the shade, here's the light. Make sure I'm clicking on this one. So I can start creating the tiny strands to make up the shadows, with only the parts that light up being the seams, which gives it a sort of a bump map, and the implication the light is hitting those little seams, which allow you to see the texture in the first place if you look at it in real life. So when I get to the light parts of the jeans, now I want to change this to light, this one to light, this one to dark. Let's go back to making the shadows with a dark body. Now this may not look any different than just creating a sort of gradient transition between the colors by just controlling the darks, the grays, and the light colors here by just using a regular brush. But trust me, because you have that style of the body of the texture and the outline be able to have the dark versus light contrast, you create the texture that's looks more realistic. Like I said, you pretty much activated a sort of bump map to this. And look, when I zoom out, you can already start seeing some sort of realism to this. So you can start seeing how the denim texture just pops out now, and it looks a bit more realistic. See that? How the body of the texture is lit while its seams are dark, and it makes that texture pop out. I could just fine tune it and spend hours on this, and if you'd like, darker areas while showing that the body's dark, because that's where the least light is represented. And I know I'm going really roughly about this, but just look how quickly I created this texture that looks more realistic even when I'm not even barely trying. Can you imagine how much better it'll look if I actually sit here just trying for hours and fine-tuning it? Another way to fine-tune, but speaking of fine-tuning, I could do that right now if I wanted to. I could just start bringing in the subtool properties. I can, for example, I have this brush size set to pen pressure. I can turn the ink, which I don't have the pen pressure turned on, to pen pressure. And it'll probably just give me a better range of opacity here. And I can fine tune those details even more. See, I'm already blending it much better. Look at that. Looks so much better. And I still have that rule of being able to show the texture because of that little bump mat technique that I created using the black and white. Look at that. Look at that. I could always, like I mentioned earlier, press the C key to actually go to transparent pixels if I want to use this very brush to erase. If I feel like I have too much texture in some places where the curvature should not show texture because it's just the light's probably diffusing it, or you just want to overwhelm the viewer with too much texture to see, you like, for example, if I just want to delete it from the curvature and just have it in the key areas, such as where the light shines the most, or the darkest areas. Alright, so that's my brush tool tutorial for how to best use it for texture.